we have added our metallic onto our armor, but now it's time to add some color for our mists and our cloth. So what we're going to start with that is for the cloth, we're going to do a base of gray sear, and for the mist, we're going to do celestial gray. So what we're going to do first is we're going to grab our number 2, and I think we're going to start working on the gray sear first. So let's just grab some, put it on our palette. Okay. Excellent. So I'm not going to worry too much about going right up onto the sides. So we can always come back and repaint those chains. I just want to make sure we have a nice coat. I'm not going to worry too much about getting into those nooks and crannies, because we will always come back with a smaller brush. But right now we're just using a large brush. Kind of save up on some time, and it helps to stay fairly consistent with a larger brush. Time to start on the top. Now we gotta be careful around his green armor. Because that is a lot harder to go back and paint over. is looking pretty good. So we're just going to kind of touch up some areas. Alright, while that dries, we're going to work on the front part of the cape. I want to grab a little bit more gray cere from the pot. Okay. It's always the back of the cape that seems, well, like the underside of the cape, that always seems to give me the most trouble. Basically feels like you have to go in painting blind. Okay. All right. Now I'm just kind of going over, making sure we have 2 good coats. Okay. So, looks like we have a pretty good cover of our coat. So next we're going to start working on our mist. And I'm actually going to go down a size to a number 1. Okay. So last little bit of section of the mist. Excellent. And now the only section of mist left is up here. Okay, the nice thing about Celestial Gray is that you don't have to water it down at all. Just goes on nice and smooth. Okay, I'll just grab a little bit more. Alright, just looking to see if there's any spots that I missed. Looks like there's just a little bit right here. Alright. That looks pretty good. So, we're going to go back to the cloak. And I've been thinking, what type of color should I use this? Or should we have it? And I was thinking of a green. And let me just grab. So, and I believe we're going to try doing a Mantis Warrior green. I think that's not too crazy of a bright. Actually, should we do Warp Lightning? No, I think we'll just stick with Mantis Green. Okay. Grab our flat number 2 again. think that is definitely the color that we wanted to give. An almost sickly green. Okay. Start working our way down. All right, now let's just work on the sides. All right. Now, okay. Okay. Looks like the cape is now just kind of drying down. I'm gonna take a wet, it's kind of like dab it a little bit. I'm just going to try this, like, kind of almost a feathering technique. So I kind of want it to look like it's kind of raggeded. Okay. That looks pretty good in my eyes for now. I'm kind of do that. And we will come back to our cape and grime it up a little bit. Adding in a little bit more highlights. But now, we're going to go back to our mist. And we're going to be using Nilex oxide. Just getting into the cracks. Now onto the back half. Okay. Okay. now let's move on back to the cape. And we're going to add, actually, it's still not dry yet. Okay, so we have to wait for both of these to dry. So what we're going to do is we're going to get some Xandri dust, and we're going to work on these skulls here. And I'm actually going to repaint this horn. Ooh, I'm going to buy some more Xandri dust. Should have enough to get us through. Let me just kind of had to reach deep in the pot. Let me clean off my brush real quick. There we go. Okay, so let's work on this one right here. Okay. Our part is trying to get your brush in there so you can actually cover in the back. Okay. All right. All right, we don't have to do anything in the back. And we're going to do these bones. Well, this one actually. So let's just start from here. Alright. Okay, now. So, we got those bones. Now, it looks like our mist is done drying, so we'll go back to that. Let's see now. Do I have a paper towel? Yeah, a tissue right there. So we'll clean off my brush really quick. Next, what we're going to be using is we're going to be going back to, well, we're not going back to, we're going to be using Uthania and Gray as the highlights. Just a little bit of water. Okay, welcome back. I'm just going to kind of touch the tips. And a little bit more water to this. I'm just barely going over these highlights, these raised edges. Just a little bit underneath. There we go. Now to do the top one. Let's see. We're going to put there. Okay. Now, probably just go a little bit more on top. There we are. There we go. So, now that we have our highlights, we can now do our shade. So we're going to be, for our shade for our mist, is going to be Clolia green shade. And we're going to water that down about half to half. So just kind of grab some from the pot. There we go. And cover the whole bit of the mist. Okay. All right. So I'm just kind of pulling around. But that looks like some pretty good mist to me. So let's go back to our cape. Looks pretty much dry. And we are going to add a highlight to it. And I believe what we're going to use is Nurgling. Actually, no, take that back. We're going to be using Elysian Green. This is going to be a rather thick highlight. Because we're going to go over and do a thinner highlight with Moot Green. Just saw this recommended. Awesome job. How did you get those blends so nice? Well, so which one are you talking about? So I'm doing the cape and the mist this stream. But how I did the cape was I did a Gray Seer base, and then I used a Mantis Warrior green. And when I was kind of done doing a very thin line, wherever it started pooling, I just used a clean brush with some water, and I just kind of like dabbed it out. So by doing Death Guard, I kind of want it to be a little bit messy. So having it look a little bit tattered, a little bit uneven, is kind of what I was going for. So I wouldn't have done the same thing as I'm doing now. Like, see like how right here, it's a little bit blotchy. I wouldn't be doing that. But with Death Guard, that's what I wanted. So with the mist, I started with a Celestra Gray base, and then I used Nihilix Oxide as a shade. And then once I did that, I went with Utherian Gray for these highlights. I kind of did about like most of the top parts and everything, nothing too crazy. And then I used a, what is it? How do you say it? Chloea green shade, and I had that watered down about 50-50. So that's just kind of drying right now. But I want this cape to be very tattered and very kind of very sickly. I mean, it's Death Guard, right? He's Lord of Corruption. So we're kind of going, and we're going to be doing a almost weathering in preparation for the griming. And I'm just kind of going over the excessively dark areas, so kind of like right here, where we want it to be a little bit lighter, as well as up over here. But nice to know that my live streams are getting recommended. So I didn't know I was important enough for that to be valid. So you made my night. Thank you very much. Nice. Was it dry brushing? I can't wet blend at all. Dry brushing has been awful for me. I'm painting World Eaters, and I have some Death Guard paints. So I did do a little bit of airbrushing, but it was mostly to prep for this armor. So how I did it was I did Death Guard primer, and then I had Ogren camo in my airbrush. So they don't have an air version of this, so you got to mix it with a little bit of thinner. And I just did an airbrush just from the top. So my airbrush, so that's all what your airbrush would see, and that kind of creates a instant highlight. And then I went with Militarum green all over it. And I wasn't too worried about pooling because, like I say, it's Death Guard, so that's my favorite reason about painting Death Guard. You can be messy and you can be like, oh yeah, that mess is completely on purpose. Oh yeah, that covering up with that Nurgle rot, totally on purpose there. And instead, in reality, I'm hiding my mistakes. The algorithm caught ya. I hope to make some of my jackals look pale, sickly, with iron rot skin as if they've been in battle for months. Well, if you want to do... let me actually grab an example. So let me grab a Poxwalker and see if that's kind of what you're looking for. Okay, so, whoops, sorry, all the shaking. But in terms of kind of a sickly, is that kind of like the skin you were looking for? And here, since you were talking that you're doing a World Eaters, so I'm doing multiple versions, and this is my Karn as well. So, had to show that off. So I really do like my Karn. Let's see now. So now that we have all that, oh, we gotta do the front part of his cape. And this camo is pretty watered down. It's almost like a glaze, just like a mixture of it. Yeah, almost green sickly. Okay, well, so let me see if I remember how I did that. So I did Wraithbone. Yeah, I believe I did Wraithbone primer, and I went over with Plaguebearer flesh. And once that was all dry, I did a dry brushing of Underhide Ash. Very light version of it. And with like the pus and everything for that type of area, I believe I did a Cowberry Crimson. Do I have that off the top? Do I have that right in front of me? I don't think I do. Oh, I'm definitely not seeing it. But a reddish color, so you can do either like a Fire Slayer. Oh, hold on, wait a minute. There it is. It was hiding. Yeah, a Carroburgered Crimson. That's what I used. And that should get you fairly well off. If you wanted to added a little bit of kind of almost blood, you can always go with the technical paint. It was like the corn blood. Let's see where that is. So that's the problem when you have too many paints. You can never find what you're looking for. Yeah, but if you want something a little bit lighter than that, I would always suggest doing an Angron Red Clear. It's a little bit fainter, and it's what I use to airbrush that kind of blood. So, and with it being so transparent, you can really add on to it. You're repainting an old pewter cairn from '96. I don't think so I'm still pretty new to this hobby, so I don't know a lot of like the old versions of it, but my friend who is a diehard firstborn, I think he would probably geek out if so like he's always trying to find some new, well, the new old stuff. So we have some moot green, and we're going to be using a fairly fine layering, well, highlight. And this should kind of give it a little bit of extra glow. You just got some good rids. I'm using Sun Scarlet for the midtones, Wild Lighter for the highlight, and Memphis for the shade. And your new 2, I just started this late summer. Well, Memphis Red, if I remember, yeah, Memphis Red is more of a base. So what I would do, if I was going to go with that, I would probably do a Memphis base, and you can use either Blood Angels or Flesh Terrors as a midtone, so these kind of get in the cracks, and will create your shades. And if you wanted to use your your Evil Sun Scarlet, that would be a good highlight. Because Memphis is definitely, it's much more, you can highlight with it, but I think that it would be I think you will have a bit of a challenge with that. So now I'm just kind of going up on the tops of these. Just kind of get my brush. There's a little hair at the end. Now, just to all right. Thank you for the tip. I have medium to thin it down. Plus, I'm going to airbrush 2. I'm going for a bright scarlet color scheme instead of grim dark. Well, if you want to do a super bright, like, are you talking about like 1980s, 1980s red, like that type of super bright? Or not as bright as that? So I'm just kind of doing a little bit of feathering. So basically what I'm doing is using the tip of my brush and going up and down. And it kind of looks like it's been dragged in some toxic sludge just on the bottom, but it looks like it's been kind of weathered, almost orange bright. Well, if I was going to go almost orange or bright, then I would actually kind of go a different route. So for if I were to do that, Gray Seer could be a good start as a base. Actually, take that back. You would probably go with actually no, yeah, a Gray Seer and then a contrast of this Megaroth Flame. And then what I would do is I would then highlight with a either Dragon Bright and a Troll Slayer Orange. And if you wanted to do kind of like a feathering thing, you can use a Ryza Rust on the bottoms of the cape. So it looks like it's an extra bright. So that gray seer would be a good base, and you can also, if you want to do it a little bit darker, then you could instead of a gray, what would be probably a good one? I guess if you had to start with a red, I would still stick with the Memphis red. Yeah, the feathering does look pretty good. So you just kind of have, that's the thing. The nice thing is that you can take as much time as you want. It needs to be thinned down a little bit. And what I try to do is I try to think about where is this light going to be looking at. So that's a big thing that helped me out when I was trying to think of my shades and everything. If you can visualize like how light's going to work, and if you want a suggestion, so how I started to figure out that light was I primed it completely black, and then I did a white version. Then I did white over it, like a scar white, just from the top. So basically I didn't touch it, and I just used an airbrush going down on it. So then when I look down, see how it's pretty dark? But if you look up, it's a little bit brighter. I'll have to base some gray, thank you for the tip, because they're all primed black, and I want that red to pop. Oh, okay, well, if you're already doing that, here, let me actually show you an example, because I haven't finished all of these. I also have a nice daylight to cast light so I can see. Sorry for interrupting so much. No. Trust me. Asking questions and everything definitely does help me, I guess, push through on this. Because if I just... Trust me, it gets really hard when you're just yabbering about, I am painting blue so many times. But here, if you take this Guardman, so I primed it completely black, and... if you look down, you see, you see nothing but shadows, but if you look top, it's all white. But then when you look from its side, you see how the shadow is. So you can kind of see inside the leg, it's a little bit darker, but you see outside here, or on the shoulder pad and on top of the gun, it's much more pronounced, and you have this shadow so you can easily visualize. And then a way to cheat is you get a contrast paint. So I did like flesh terrors or something, and I just airbrushed over it. And the thing is that with contrast is that it's semi-transparent, so you have the red, but you also have the white and the black. So you have red darks, red brights, and then that red midtone. Now you can't go completely crazy on it. You got to have a little bit of control over the red, or else it's just going to be completely dark. But this is a good way of trying to visualize those shadows, especially if you're new. So let me just grab a little sip of my Coke. Okay. So now let's get this little slime area while we have this green out and it's all wet. But hopefully that visualization will help you. So when I first started, I just was trying to pour just so much videos and everything. Definitely gotta try that. That way I can place red layers to help visualize where to airbrush. Don't have any contrast, but I'm totally going to try them in the future. Yeah, so contrast, I like contrast. It kind of helps speed up the process a little bit. But they're definitely something that's like, hey, when you want to have something that's a little bit uneven, like this armor or this cape where it's a little bit messy, it's fantastic. And they're great because they can go straight into an airbrush without any thinning down, unless you want to. It won't clog it up or anything, which is also great. So I really do like them. I watch more videos and prepare than I actually paint. I have yet to use the airbrush so far. I only practice on cheap minis. Yeah, so the first thing that I actually practiced on was just terrain, because it's just like no one really cares about terrain. I'm trying to care more about terrain because I'm trying to do. My hope is eventually this channel will turn into more battle reports with painting live streams. But eventually, yeah, but like when you're just kind of playing with friends or something, normally I'm just kind of like, hey, you could put a cardboard box for all I care. That could be a that could be a whatever. But yeah, so definitely I would start with terrain first, and then once, because that will help you kind of learn just how to just even control and not pull. Because when you start working on a model and airbrushing it, you need a little bit more general, well, I guess a more fine tune of how it is, and by learning how to use it on your airbrush and be very uniform, it will definitely help. So I think we have almost everything done, so I'm going to And I believe we're almost ready. To grime this up. So, I love painting live streams. I don't have any friends in the hobby, and I like having the community with me while I paint. Well, don't you worry. So I'll definitely be painting for a long time. I'm trying to think, like, I'm trying to get back into the live streaming. So when you have a newborn and a full-time job, it's hard to be fairly consistent. But if you do Discord or something, I normally say when I'm going live, and it's normally roughly around this time when I go live. And I'm trying to do Monday, Wednesday, Friday, and then I also try to stream on Twitch. But that's normally just kind of like, hey, just random games, so I just don't burn myself out. So let me see, where's my weathering? That's not what I want. I'm trying to find my typhus corrosion. Ah, there we go. Okay, so typhus corrosion. So this type of paint. Ooh, is it any good? No, it's like practically all dried up. All right, well, let me see if I can revive it. Life is busy here too. I got lots of crazy and uncertainty going on, preventing me from getting to the hobby desk. I want to try streaming eventually though. Yeah, so streaming has definitely helped me stay motivated. It's just kind of like, hey, when it's like the family time or something, it's starting out, it's just like, hey, you know, family gotta take first. But yeah, streaming definitely does help in staying consistent. Okay. Hopefully that little bit of water will help re-energize some of the paint. So the nice thing is that it's a water-based paint, and normally you can kind of like wake it up if it's not too dried out. And I'm gonna use this brush. And I'm just gonna kind of dab over it. Okay, so, and I'm just kind of covering everything. And then I'm basically going to be washing it away until it gets to a dirtiness that I want. So that's always a problem when you're trying to get into the very top parts. You didn't do a sub-assembly, but hopefully the only one that cares about that is you. Alright, so now we have it pretty well grimed up. Now we gotta undo the grime a little bit, just a little bit. I'm just kind of getting some water, just kind of brushing it off. What kind of brushes do you use by chance? I have natural brushes from Hobby Lobby. Can't afford much more than that. Yeah, so I pretty much use stuff like that too. So I do have a few Citadel brushes that I have when I first started. But then I'm like, okay, well, let me just try some other brushes. And I think I got the current set that I'm using. These I'm using like a Royal Fine Stable or something. I guess that's the brand. I got those from Walmart or Hobby Lobby. So I'm not worried too much. I can't afford much in terms of fancy stuff yet. I'm too busy trying to save up to get like some new equipment or just buy the miniatures itself. But yeah, I don't do any like crazy like, oh yes, this brush was handcrafted by the monks of Nepal and only uses the finest stuff. No, I don't use that. I don't do that. Not yet, at least. But I also feel like it's not like the equipment can only get you so much. The real magic is inside your heart, as corny as it is. Or like the best the best kind of like the best tools and everything can only get you so far. Okay. But that looks like a pretty grimy cape, if you ask me. Okay. I even use blue tack and an old apple barrel ball to hold them as I paint. Hey, I mean, that works. Also, if you're going to be using airbrush, this is something that, when I found out, it's like an instant cheat. Silly putty as masking tape. So like an example is like, hey, you take something like this and like actually better example, it's kind of when I was doing, so this is like my temporary painting thing, but I would paint an airbrush. Actually, let me just grab a salamander. So I have a super shiny salamander army that I'm building. And what I did is when I got this super bright stuff, it was very, very shiny, and I would use silly putty to cover over the metallics, right? And then I would just airbrush the green, and then I would take off the silly putty and absolutely, and it was absolutely magical. Actually, the funny thing is that I have a short that is my salamander short, and somehow it's the most popular thing on the channel. I don't know why, don't know how. It was I put it together in like 30 minutes on a meme, and yeah, fantastic. All the other stuff that I put in effort, no. It's the meme post has to do the best. That's super shiny. I love salamanders. Yeah. So I'll definitely be doing more salamanders as I can afford, but I'm trying to get my Death Guard army up to 2,000 points, so then I can do battle report at least for that one, and then hopefully do some other ones. So I'm working on salamanders, world eaters, Death Guard. I have some Crimson Fists. That was my first army, and then I have Custodes, Tyranids, Imperial Guard, a little bit of Votan, and some Orcs that I need to paint. But yeah, I'm telling you, I'm trying to do like 2,000s of everything. But I think I need to call it. I've been painting for an hour and a half. Gotta go make sure I can help put the baby to sleep and all that fun stuff. But I'll definitely be streaming more. I'll try to stream either tomorrow same time, and tomorrow or Wednesday. Wait, Wednesday's tomorrow. Yeah, there you go. I will definitely try to live stream tomorrow, and if not, I will definitely do it on Friday. But I hope you enjoyed this stream, learned a little bit, learned a few tips. I know I definitely had a lot of fun. That's how the algorithm works. Gotta head out too. Do check for Blood for the Blood God by Gunship. It's a band with Warhammer nerds in it. Ooh, I will definitely check that out. I hope you have a fantastic evening, and I'm